It's a beautiful Wednesday morning to you. Welcome, good morning. It's AM today on Osrc television. Today, the 22nd day, in the month of February. Election in Nigeria is just a matter of hours. Yes, that's when the 2023 general elections will start. I'm Sahid Aribisala, welcoming you on the program.
Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Flora Ibanya.
Of course, we will not break tradition. Today, of course, we'll take a look at the dailies, what they have for us, particularly as Nigerians look forward to the 2023 general elections. Stakeholders involved in the process and crossing the T's and dotting the I's to ensure that it eventually pans out to be a smooth one. Some say perhaps this will also be in a list of most credible election in Nigeria. We'll just see, hoping that Saturday Nigerians will go out en masse to cast a ballot. But of course, let's begin the paper segment, the newspaper segment this morning, from what the Vanguard newspaper has for us today, Wednesday, the 22nd. The bold headline on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper for this morning: Naira redesign. Only old 200 Naira notes reissued. CBN insists. You have riders to that. Denies directing banks to receive old 500, 1,000 Naira notes. Buhari made mistake. That's coming from Governor El Rufai, Governor of Kaduna State. Says APC governors not against Naira redesign. Of course, what they're saying is the hardship on the people at this time is much, and of course there's also need for government to yield to the plea of Nigerians, considering the fact that there's also a court judgment that said this new and old note should continue to coexist as at now. We are waiting for another judgment, or the hearing of the case at the Supreme Court later today, and of course many Nigerians are looking for what will likely be the outcome.
Well, while Nigerians are waiting, CBN is still insisting on what it says, that the only note they have approved for use is the old 200 Naira notes. And if you agree with me, even outside here in the markets, as much as people are waiting for whatever Supreme Court will say, nobody collects those old notes again. Nobody wants to have them again. So it's more like the Supreme Court is fighting a different battle, but the people are already listening to only CBN, because whatever CBN says is what they're actually following at this point.
Is the CBN even, is the Supreme Court even fighting any battle? Because going by the broadcast of President Muhammadu Buhari, many have said that's an affront on democracy, a contempt of court order, and looking at the fact that regardless of that, many governors have tried to throw their weight into this battle, insisting that businesses operating in their state must collect the 500 and 1,000 Naira notes, going by the Supreme Court's judgment. But many are also, trying to toe the side of caution, looking at what the President has said. Just 200 Naira notes will be reissued, regardless of what the Supreme Court says. And that is also forming what three states are saying also in the Vanguard newspaper. Kogi, Kaduna, Zamfara accuses Malami Emefiele on violating Supreme Court order. That's on page 35. And you could say, are Nigerians really looking forward to what the decision of the Supreme Court will be again, looking at the fact that the earlier one didn't work out?
Let me give you an example. In Nigeria, over time we've come to realize that that court judgment, not just Supreme Court judgment, even most of these governors fighting, many of them do not obey court orders. So when you're now looking at saying the president is contempt of court for him to go above the Supreme Court to say something else, you look at those even complaining, are they better? Because this whole thing is a matter of, let's do the right thing. Let people look at us and see us doing the right thing. Then all of us can toe the same path. Recently, the EFCC chairman, he has been sentenced to jail almost 3 times. But he's still in his office doing his work. And nothing has happened. So the issue of contempt of court here, Supreme Court and the Naira notes, you will still agree with me that outside, in the open space, in the public space, nobody is even waiting for Supreme Court again. Because everybody wants to Because now some state governors are saying if you reject old notes, we'll shut down your complex, we'll do this, we'll do that. Those old notes, people that don't even reject it, where are they going to pay it into?
Okay.
So it's more like they're giving out their goods free of charge, and they won't be able to. I don't know if you saw the video of people that had wants of cash that wanted to deposit at CBN. It was very difficult for them. As much as in some states, the CBN has opened a mini shop for them inside the complex. Come in and pay your old notes and go home. Some states still don't have that wherewithal, or maybe they don't have the opportunity to do that. So at this point, I don't know what we should really expect, but just try as much as you can not to have old notes.
Of course, looking at the fact that some state governments are trying to enforce the collection of the 500, 1,000 naira, we also hope that they also help those who are, doing the needful to help them deposit when that time really arrives. Looking at the back and forth on that matter. Let's quickly wrap up from the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Gunmen bomb Kogi LG Secretariat. That's on page 6 of the Vanguard today. YFG borrowed 2.1 trillion naira in 2 months. That's according to the DMO, Debt Management Office. You want to know why that kind of amount was borrowed just 2 months? Check page 19 of the Vanguard newspaper. Naira swap mitigated e-swap Boko Haram activities in Northeast. That's according to Army. That's one success in terms of what the Naira redesign has been able to do. You also find this one in the front page of the Vanguard. It says 2023 polls, 3 days to go. Battle for National Assembly. Orders before bigwigs jostling for return. You find a picture of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, and the Senate President, Senator Ahmed Lawan, just beside that particular headline in the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Also, what you find in the front page of the Vanguard this morning, it's a picture of the grand finale of the All Progressives Congress presidential campaign, and that was in Lagos State. President Muhammadu Buhari right there in that picture. You also see the presidential candidate of the APC, Shiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his vice, as well as the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. The woman is also not left out in that picture. That's the wife.
I was wondering when you say that.
I will, definitely. The wife of the presidential candidate
and
of the
some
APC.
other women too.
And other women also. Other women also in the front page picture of the Vanguard with this caption: Buhari campaigns with Tinubu in Lagos. Yes, in case you've not seen videos, the president actually helped Nigerians to go that route. Those are some of the stories you find in the Vanguard newspaper for today.
Alright, moving on to the Blueprint newspaper. We have 3 days to Saturday polls. The die is cast. Buhari, CSOs boost Tinubu's chances. I will work hard for Nigeria, APC presidential candidate Tinubu vows. Party demands PVC collection statistics for planning. I won't mind losing Senate seats for Obi. That's coming from Samuel Otto. It's payback time for APC. That is Atiku, the PDP presidential candidate there. We have subversive elements, external collaborators plotting to disrupt polls. NSA. Respect Nigeria's sovereignty. INEC tells 146,913 foreign observers. NSCDC deploys 102,000 personnel for election. JAM suspends 2023 direct entry registration. Zulum hands over 9 armored vehicles to Borno police. Election. NRC suspends Kaduna Lagos train services. Naira. Ahead Supreme Court hearing today, El Rufai explains reasons for governor's actions. Nigeria's next leader cannot fix fiscal crisis. So that's coming from investors.
So we will.
That's a big question.
It's unfixable, is it?
I don't know. Maybe when we get details, we'll understand what they mean that it cannot be fixed. Because if it cannot be fixed, then I don't know.
That's why you need to check the blueprint.
Yes, and that story is on page 22 of the Blueprint newspaper. We also have foreign reserves drop from $37.52 billion to $36.77 billion. Alright, details of this and more are what you should get in the pages of the Blueprint newspaper.
From the Blueprint newspaper, let's check the Daily Sun for today. And you find this one: court rules on FG ASU suit, March 28. How many Nigerians even remember that there's still a battle between the federal government and ASU? You find that on page 27 of the Daily Sun newspaper. But the bold one, leading other headlines in the front page of the Daily Sun, is on the elections. Heavy security at INEC offices. You find this riders: sensitive materials arrive states. FCT. Security agents begin show of force in Anambra. Yes, you find that also quite necessary on the back of recent attacks that you've had to hear of taking place in Anambra. Security agents begin show of force in Anambra. You find that also in the Daily Sun newspaper. You also see this one, still on the 2023 general elections. We are following events in Nigeria closely. That's coming from UK. Restates visa sanctions on electoral offenders. INEC accredits 146,913 observers to monitor elections. And that's also quite instructive what the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, said yesterday while meeting with observers right there in Abuja. It says, remember that your job is just to observe. Nigeria is conducting its election, and of course, as a sovereign state, it also has the power to do that. So while observing, do not interfere in the process. Go by the guidelines for what you're observing and make your reports, not interfering in the process. So that's strong words coming from the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission to all those observers who will be on election duties here in Nigeria, particularly those ones that are coming from outside the country. Other headlines in the Daily Sun newspaper: I'll restore hopes to masses, build new Nigeria. That's coming from Tinubu. NLC tax INEC on transparent electoral processes. Benue, Abia, CPs read route hacks to miscreants. You also see this one: vote for me, Dati to save Nigeria. That's coming from Obi. NYC gives core members security tips as election officers. Advises them to surrender BVAS machine, election materials to save their lives if need arises. That's on page 8. Say to before armed is to before one, or to before one is to before armed. That's what the NYC is also telling the core members. Look, the election is not more than your life, and if the need arises, perhaps you're under attack, just surrender. Yes, let them do whatever it is they want to do with the BVAS. And of course, you know what the Electoral Act also says about issues like that, when there are interferences in the process. That's like as useless as it can get. Take away the BVAS. Narrow swap. APC governors file contempt suit against Malami Emefiele. You also see this one: Ohaneze, ACF, NEF wants FG to guarantee citizen safety. Finally, from the Daily Sun, in the camp of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku to Wike, you are chicken hiding under costume of lion. He says he's not interested in vendetta against Rivers governor. That's according to the People's Democratic Party. Find out on page 26 and 27 of the Daily Sun. But guess what? Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has also appealed to the electorate in Rivers State to say, look, the coming election is about my political future, and your votes will also guarantee how relevant I am in the future in terms of politics. So whether the people of Rivers State understand what the Rivers State Governor is saying to them, Will they obey or will they follow his appeal? Will they yield? We'll leave that until election day. Those are some of the stories you find in the Daily Sun for today.
But I still want to understand. As much as Mr. Wike wants the River State people to determine his electoral powers and relevance, he has still not told them who to vote for.
He said the River State people know.
How will they know? Did you call a private meeting with them that the media because it's but I still remember the campaign when they had the issue of double campaign. He was still screaming PDP. So I don't know. Well,
but the issue is, you remember there was sometimes last year where the River State governor began to make all sort of appointments about thousands of special advisors on political matters. Perhaps he has also deployed these people to speak with the River State people. Door-to-door campaign. Look, this is where our governor wants to go. And he's also urging you to go that road. So we'll wait and see.
If you want to go somewhere and you cannot confidently
say you're going that place.
Say this is where I'm going.
Okay.
Well, alright, let's take a look at the Punch newspaper this morning. We have police Amotekun nab suspects with fake new notes. We also have kerosene price rises by 136%. 5 police chiefs posted to Rivers CPS redeployed. I will work for Nigeria as Buhari worked for me. That's coming from the APC presidential candidate, Tinubu. Naira crisis. Cash strapped Nigerians bank on Supreme Court as hearing resumes today. Governors demand Malami Emefiele sanctioned for contempt of court. Banks extend old 1,000 naira, 500 naira notes collection mop up to April 10. Panic in black markets as dollar naira rate fluctuates sharply. Now while we are talking about dollar naira rates, we also talk about naira to naira rates.
How much is naira to naira rate in your area?
The last I checked, 5,000 naira was 2,000 naira.
The last you checked.
So I don't know what this morning is like.
Okay. Perhaps you also find
so imagine when you have only 5,000 naira in the account.
And you have to part away with
3,000 naira.
Okay.
It's sad.
What does that do for you? When you have 3,000 naira, it's still same scene, but the president is still saying, hang on, just persevere a little more.
It will soon be over.
And all of this will be over. How soon will that be over?
But again, no, why are we fighting really? When our pastors tell us, hang on, fast and pray, we believe them. Now, why can't we believe our president when he says, hang on, the light at the tunnel is almost here. Let's be patient. Let's just be, let's believe. I'm sure it's going to be all right. Like this man, the cashless policy is working. I came to work this morning. I didn't have any cash. So, and I told the driver, do you take transfer? He said yes.
Interesting.
So I'm sure in the coming days it's going to be better.
You replicate that in the market also.
And still at the Punch newspaper this morning, we have organ harvesting. I reported Ekweremadu to police, says victim. Anambra killings. Panel begins on-site assessment. IG rejects RRS. Prisoners back Governor Makinde. Pensioners back Governor Makinde for another term. Now, Zaid, let's look at these Anambra killings and the accusation of extrajudicial killings. I don't know if you saw the trend on social media since last week. It was really a very sad one because while the popular unknown blogger dished out all this with deep information, even as at yesterday morning, I still got another audio where one of the policemen was appealing to the IGP and the Commissioner of Police in Anambra State to save him because the other policeman allegedly is threatening his life after he helped him withdraw 40 million naira from a victim's account. And I'm wondering, are these really true? Because these are, the panel has been set up and we are hoping that in the coming days we'll get the full detail of what is actually happening in Anambra State Police Command.
Definitely, that's what we hope for, and of course a lasting solution to the issue of brutality, unprofessional conduct from those who we hope they are meant to serve us or to protect us, as it were. Let's check the Punch newspaper quickly as we try to close shop on this segment. The Punch newspaper is leading with the Naira crisis. Cash-strapped Nigerians bank on Supreme Court as hearing resumes today. Of course, you also see this one. Governors demand Malami Emefiele sanction for contempt of court. You also find some other papers out today, particularly the New Telegraph, 72 hours to election. CBN settles INEC's ad hoc staff's payments. Good news that it is. Looking at the fact that INEC at the point in time said they're still having issues with cash.
Well, recall Emefiele said, "I got you."
Yeah, and now the New Telegraph is saying we've settled that matter. That matter has been put to rest. So ad hoc staffs can now, go about their duty, knowing fully well that they've been paid, that they've been settled, as it were. We are aware of plot to ignite unrest, subvert polls. That, according to the federal government, INEC engages 200,000 NYC members, says 146,913 observers will monitor process. Civil Defense deploys 102,000 that's officers for this election. NCC dictates 622 as NCC, I beg your pardon, dedicates 622 as election toll-free incident hotline. Yes, you get that. 622. That's the dedicated line for election toll-free incidents. That's from NCC. British government will punish politicians involved in poll rigging violence. That's also in the New Telegraph. You also find the picture of former President Goodluck Jonathan. Jonathan seeks violence-free elections. Emulate ex-president Nnamani Ezefi. Others advise politicians. That's on page 8 and 29. You also see this one, Ekiti Guba. Again, Oyebanji floors Zoni. Find that also in the New Telegraph. Perhaps we'll quickly check other papers today.
All right. If we still have to look at them, we have this one from this day. Okay, you looked at this day newspaper. Okay, let's quickly take a look at the Daily Trust. INEC gets cash for election. That was when we mentioned about Emefiele's promise to INEC that he got their back. Then here we have a New Telegraph. Federal government records 40.6% rise in fiscal deficit to 746.30 billion naira. I won't engage in politics of vendetta, article tells Wike. Oshibajo to security agencies hold those in charge of oil production for theft and sabotage. And JAM places 2020 direct entry registration on hold.
Of course, those are some of the stories you find in the dailies this morning, but quickly in the sporting arena, Sporting Sun is here, and of course last night was another time for the UEFA Champions League, and interestingly or surprisingly, Liverpool were trashed 5-2 right there at the Anfield Stadium by Real Madrid, and you see that it's an unending problem for Jurgen Klopp's men. You find this one also. One man, Nigerian international Victor Osimhen, continues to fly high right there, even in the Champions League. Osimhen opens door for Napoli exit. Says highest goal scorer, actually not my main priority. So what's the main priority for Victor Osimhen? He's getting the goals. But I says that's not his priority. You check that story also in the Sporting Sun. Rashford holds talks with PSG. That's another story for you to check in the Sporting Sun, and that's where we call it a wrap on the newspaper segment for today. We'll take a break. When we come back, 72 hours to election in Nigeria. Where do we stand? Please stay tuned.